What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. That woman I was speaking with has set off on her transformative journey. So now I have time to think about what that was and what it means. And tarot is freaky, now that I'm using it for myself. Adjustment reversed showed up 3 times in I think the 3 spreads I did while we were talking. And in each case, it appeared in relation to what our communicating was supposed to do. And now, because I did another spread today and it showed up again, what happened? And what happened was adjustment reversed, which I take to mean a major internal adjustment you don't understand, won't totally understand, but now has happened, and you'll begin to feel the effects of. And that's what I've been thinking about today. What changed? Because I can feel something did change. The first and most obvious is the title of this video: Love Without Expectation of Reciprocation, which became a small meme. I realized you can have emotions and make decisions and work on your internal life, or even have an internal life completely independent of other people. Now, I'm not there yet, totally, but this is the first time I've engaged my emotions and engaged with my emotions in this way. Feeling what I want to feel without needing an external source to validate it or to make it real or to make it okay. You don't need other people for your emotions to be real. And looking at emotions from this point of view, it goes far beyond allowing yourself to love someone without reciprocation. I can see applications for this practice all over the place. Forgiving people who haven't done anything to warrant forgiveness, or maybe even who don't want to be forgiven, or would even hate the idea that you are someone who can or would forgive them. Forgiving not for their sake at all, totally for your own sake. And you always hear people say that, but I'm an outcomes person. So, to me, you do these things sometimes. You try to do what people suggest you do, and you forgive someone, and nothing changes, and you feel like a dickhead. But that's because even if you aren't thinking about it this way, your emotions are still reliant on externalities, and they don't need to be. And maybe this is obvious to some people, but for me, this is a revelation. A revelation I haven't totally internalized yet, can't practice totally yet, but got a taste of. And I can see ways this practice can be used, often is used, in a negative way, but negative to whom? Other people? Fuck 'em. And in all this, I've thought about other stuff too. What you are inside. One of the things I realized for certain is deep inside, I'm a sensitive, scared pussy. And you already know that, but we already know you can be multiple things at the same time. It's hard to reconcile this goblin nature with this sensitive pussy nature. And also, that sensitive, tender pussy, or being a sensitive and tender pussy, doesn't make you or doesn't mean anything good by default. That was the thing I needed to work with. you can be, you probably are, by default, a low frequency, bad, sensitive, tender pussy. But the reason this all is important, aside from being aware of what you are and how what you are works, is the self you build to deal with the world doesn't need to be only one thing. As in grappling with just how bad reality is, just how bad people are, just how bad you are, for a long time now, I've been trying to build up this relationship with the shadow. And that's been good. That's been productive. But the way I've been doing it has come at the cost of all tenderness, of all sensitivity. And that hasn't been a mistake so far, because so far, the way things have worked is anytime you allow any of these tender sides of yourself to suffer to exist, it makes you weaker. It makes you an easier target. It makes you hesitate. And you can't afford to hesitate. Ergo, no matter how bad it hurts, you need to kill these things. Allowing just one to exist unrepressed, actively repressed, much less engaged with, makes you a weaker person who can't deal with how ugly life is. But I think one of the things that came out of our speaking was the ability to do both. Now, I probably won't be doing both most of the time, but now the ability to has been unlocked. An example: people who are close to me, or quotes close to me, are, I don't know how to describe their feelings, but in a technical way, we're supposed to be familiar, and I talk like we aren't familiar. I don't joke around with people. Even when I'm making an effort to be emotionally supportive of someone, there is a formality there. And I've been doing this so long, I didn't even recognize this as a thing that I was doing. There isn't another way for me to be. Or so I thought. And why am I this way all the time? Two reasons. One, familiarity is tricky. Maybe it's not tricky for other people. For me, it's very tricky. And in the past, because I've been like this for probably 5 or 6 years, it seems like any time you try to be familiar with someone, you're familiar with them in a wrong way, in a bad way, and you get zapped for it. Which, fuck you. I'm trying to be friendly here, trying to make you comfortable, or trying to be comfortable with someone who wants me to be comfortable with them, but apparently not in any way that I would be comfortable with. Fuck you. On the first front, that first front, it's not worth the trouble. I'll just be this way the entire time and there will be no problems. And then second, it acts like a defoliator for familiarity. It keeps people at arm's length automatically. Your formal baseline sets the tone. It communicates that familiarity is unwelcome. Communication isn't unwelcome. Friendliness isn't unwelcome. Even a bit of informality isn't unwelcome. But familiarity is unwelcome. It ensures nobody gets to know you, and it's clever because if you do this for long enough and this becomes your natural state, you assume people engaging with you in that way or on that level are getting to know you. And to be fair, they are getting to know you. But for you, knowing you means staying at a safe distance and keeping the shields up. She convinced me not to do that. And it was funny because within a day of being familiar, what I mentioned would happen or happened in the past is exactly what happened. My form of familiarity was distasteful, but that didn't matter because the point had been made. You can choose to be more human with people if you want to. Now, that gets tricky because if you choose to do this, you get into this game of wanting to make your earnest familiarity appealing to people, which at the is it's simultaneously the point and the opposite of the point. But again, that doesn't matter. The point, the key point is this is an option that I had totally shut out. And this is important not just as a mechanic in getting to know people or people allowing people to get to know you. There's also a feeling component to this familiarity shit. I had almost completely disabled the feeling component of interactions. As in, I recognize that you're feeling something or that I'm feeling something, but neither of those sets of emotions matter or matters. The outcome is what matters. The emotions are things you can deal with, or in some cases, you need to deal with, and they aren't totally unimportant. The goal is, ideally, everybody has positive emotions, but emotions are so flaky and flighty and unreliable, not just in everybody, but also, or especially in yourself. Get the outcome and then worry about your feelings. Unless it's a really strong emotion like fury, that you'll need to deal with now, but everything else, secondary. And I still don't know what to do with this, but I realized there is an entire emotional world in each person out there for you to engage with if you choose to. Now, I shut myself off from that as much as possible. You can't ever totally shut yourself off from that, but you can try. You can get pretty far. And you do that because you can't allow yourself to get into the habit of considering other people's feelings when shit is on the line. But you don't need to close yourself off totally from it. You can practice being selective with it. Closing yourself off from some people or from a lot of people, but it doesn't need to be all people. You can engage with people on this level, even if it's only a handful. And that can be an enriching experience. What she did was unlock a few of the potentially warmer human sides of Effie for me in a way that allows me to continue what I need to do or try to be, Willard, in order to survive without sacrificing all of this tenderness. As in, I don't think I'm going to walk around being everybody's buddy. I accidentally tried to do that before I caught myself, and I paid for it within about 30 minutes of walking into work that day. So no, I'm not going to be walking around being huggy-wuggy with everybody. But I can still practice being what I need to be to deal with the world and still have the capacity to be huggy-wuggy with some people. And once again, this is not a transformation. I have not undergone a transformation here. What's happened is doors have been opened that I don't think I could have unlocked by myself. And this makes me think about the way we develop as people. Sometimes you think about your development in terms of skills. Sometimes they're mutually exclusive or this or that. Or you can see other people doing different things and succeeding, and you recognize that's legitimate because there are tons of different ways to be and to develop. But for some reason within your system, even if you see that other people are having success with this, when you try to implement it, it doesn't work because that's not the way you're built. But then events happen, and then these doors open. You couldn't have opened these doors on your own. Other people or special events need to unlock these skill trees for you. And I don't know why that is. Why is it that, well, it's like the cages, different cages and different keys thing. Why is that the case? Why can't you unlock certain doors for yourself? I have no idea, but this seems to be a fact of life you should be taught about younger. The other thing she did was demonstrated to me the way you can be an FE type and still be yourself effectively. And consequences is another thing. This is more of a sociopathy thing, but the way she looks at consequences is fascinating to me. Because I've always viewed getting hit with any sort of consequences as a failure. And that probably has everything to do with the way I was raised, including other life events. But you can factor risks and consequences into your game so you can make bigger moves, as in getting hit with consequences, as long as they aren't really awful consequences, without fucking up your entire strategy. That's not something I'd ever considered before. And this having FE and still being yourself and asserting yourself thing is very difficult to my mindset, even now. But it is an option. Fucking up the vibes as an FE type is not death. And that helps me out, or at least knowing this is something you can do once you figure out how to do it, helps me out quite a lot, because I realize I'm a social midwit. Playing the social game is something I can do, and I need to do, considering my position and my goals. But social gaming is not my strength, and it probably never will be. For a lot of reasons, but pride and anger are two big ones. I don't know a non-douchey way to say this, but aura is my strength. I'll probably get further in real life if, instead of using games, social games, that I'm not good at to hide my strength, which is fucking stupid when you sit there and think about it. Why are you using an inferior skill to hide one of your strengths when you could be working on how to use your strength to its highest capacity? So once again, I'm not going into work now talking about fascist magic and the power of aesthetics. The many benefits of North and South America uniting into one global empire that will take the world and then take the stars. I'm not going into work talking about all this yet. But to an extent, to a very limited extent, I should be. Because if I can figure out how to use my strength, then I'll get a lot further than I will hiding poorly. But anyway, yeah, adjustment reversed describes how I feel at present perfectly. This was an event more major than even I realize it was. More has changed that I'm not aware of yet, and I am curious to see the way existence responds to these changes. Oh, and that's another thing. This is a smaller thing before we get into the conclusion. What a douche you are. She pointed out the fact all anyone needs to do to hold my attention is to say, I don't know. You explain part of something that seems important, then you say you don't know, and I am hooked to you. Those are the sorts of person cheat codes I wish I could unlock independently. What a dickhead I am for that, something that simple and clear to work on me, because she's dead right. Holy shit, that's terrifying. Now, I mean, I've hedged against these sorts of things in life by forcing myself to be suspicious and, in some cases, spiteful toward anybody who makes me feel positive in any abnormal way, which I'm sure is a healthy way to go about living that will have no consequences. But it's because you're aware shit like this, if somebody can make you feel really good in an abnormal way, odds are good that's a problem. But god damn, for one of them to be that simple, it's unsettling. Anyway, adjustment reversed, where I am emotionally. It's not like we're never going to talk again. I've had encounters with people like this in the past, crucible type encounters, but usually they always end with our never speaking again. That shouldn't be the case this time, so even more uncharted waters. But the point is, the crucible part is over. I think whatever needed to happen happened. And I don't know what happens later. As in, will it be another crucible, or will it be an acquaintance thing? I don't know, but this round of intensity is done. And I'm trying to figure out how I feel. Because it's not sadness. In fact, it's an emotion, but it's a not words emotion. It feels like the tide has gone out. That's the only way I can describe it. Maybe I'll feel more or be able to word it better as time goes on. And the other thing that showed up in most of these tarot spreads was Dick, the same Dick showing up repeatedly as a guiding force. And it looks like that's what's going to happen again, so maybe my Dick will guide me to the next crucible. That's what's slated to happen next. But in the meantime, it seems like I'll need to do a lot of consolidating and reconciling within a sea of confusion, which tracks. But that about covers it, and we'll cut it here. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.